Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and welcome back to my channel, Stubbornly Bookish. Today I'm going to be talking about the books I read in May. I read 6 books in the month of May. I was happy with the number because again my reading has been up and down all year, but in terms of the quality is a little bit lacking. I also think I could have read a lot more if audiobooks were working with me in the past little bit. For whatever reason, audiobooks just haven't been able to keep my attention, and it's a bummer. On that really fun note, I'm going to just jump into the video. The first book I read in May was The Star-Touched Queen by Roshni Chokshi. This has been a book I've been highly anticipating for what feels like years now. I've been so looking forward to reading Roshni's books. Her writing and her stories just seemed like books that I would really love and enjoy. And because of those high expectations, I think I kind of set myself up for failure. The Star-Touched Queen is a fantasy inspired by Indian myth. It focuses on a girl named Maya who has been cursed from birth. Essentially, she's always been told that her marriage will bring about death and destruction. And essentially, she is given the option to kill herself to help save her kingdom, or marry a man she doesn't know who promises to treat her as his equal and that she will reign as queen beside him. I liked a lot of things about this story. I did enjoy Roshni's writing. I'm happy to admit that I like the flowery nature of her prose. I will admit though, sometimes she goes on a little too long and I'm like, what was the point? I really liked the setting and the atmosphere, especially once we travel into the otherworldly realms. Loved it. I did actually like the romance between them. Obviously, it happens a little bit fast, but the romantic feelings between them I did enjoy reading from. I just didn't particularly love the plot and the shift in the narrative at like the halfway point in the story. It was just personal preference. There's a lot to like in this story. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I just think my expectations really hurt me in this instance, which is a bummer. The next book was a whirlwind of emotions, let me tell you now, and it's The Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I had been holding on to this book for the Scallywag-a-thon because it's a pirate-themed readathon, and it seemed a perfect time to read this. The Daughter of the Pirate King essentially follows the daughter of the main pirate king going undercover, pretending to get captured on an enemy ship to discover this map piece that would complete her map and help her find this like ultimate treasure. I will admit that it was very fast-paced, easy to read, and a easy to follow plot. I read this so quickly, which is shocking because our main character in here is one of the most insufferable main characters ever. I would put her on the level of Selena from the Throne of Glass series, where you're just bragging about all the things that you can do, and it's so much easier for you than everyone else. Honestly felt like hitting my head against the wall half the time when reading from her perspective, and the whole book is her perspective. And so, another bone to pick, obviously the writing. The writing was incredibly repetitive with such bragging. I think the first person choices maybe wasn't the greatest narrative choice because again, you're right in her head and it was rough. And another bone to pick with the writing, I didn't like how weirdly mum we were about certain topics. If you're talking about pirates, something associated with pirates happens to be rape. And I just didn't understand the tiptoeing around rape and abuse that certain pirates would commit or had committed. The saving grace of the story was, however, the romance and the romantic tension between our main character and her love interest. They essentially are both attempting to use each other to get information out of one another, but they're also very attracted to each other, and it had a really interesting dynamic and tension with it. I think this story would have been better suited to new adult or even adult, just in terms of the romance. It was a little bit sexy for a YA a little bit. So I gave this 2.5 out of 5 stars. I guess I somewhat enjoyed it. I do have the sequel. We'll probably finish off the series, but I'm in no rush. At some point in time last month, I had a little bit of a crisis about all the book series I had not yet finished. So essentially, basically to rectify this crisis of conscience, I decided to binge a series I had been intending to finish. And so I did that. I ended up reading books 4, 5, and 6 in the Fallen Kingdom series. Fallen Kingdoms is a series I had enjoyed in the past. I read the first 3 basically a year apart from one another, and I just decided, you know what? Just finish off this series. And so I did. I adored book 4. It was my favorite in the series. This got 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved certain characters and their development. There are other characters in this series that I just consistently hate, but that's besides the point. I just really liked the momentum that was building for book 4. Book 5 was basically abysmal. It was a nothing book. There was no point to it other than the very end. And then book 6 just essentially was a letdown because it was a very lackluster finale. All in all, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. This one, 2 stars. And then I gave the final one somewhere between a 2 and a 2.5. Haven't fully decided yet. The last book I read, I actually very much enjoyed, and that was 1,000 Beginnings and Endings by Ellen O. and Elsie Chapman. This is an anthology. It was edited by these two. This is an anthology that essentially focuses on Asian myth and legends, and they're basically adapted by all of these young adult authors. Some adapt them to here and now in the present. Some have them set in the past, some are mythical, magical, and some are just contemporary, and I enjoyed a great majority of them. At the end of each story, there's also an author's note that explains a little bit about the myth and why the author chose to kind of retell it, and them kind of explaining why this story was so significant to them. My favorite stories happen to be by Roshni Chokshi, which Wynne really liked her story. I also liked Aisha Saeed's story and Cindy Pond's story. And I was just really happy to finish this. I enjoyed most of these stories, so I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, which is very high for an anthology. I honestly think for the first time in my life, I might have actually filmed a semi-quick video, which is revolutionary. All of my May reads, most of them were somewhat of a bummer, which sucks, but I'm looking forward to reading more in the last half of June, because that's when I'm filming this, and hopefully my reading turns around at some point in time. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!